Well, ladies and gentlemen, the wait is over. Today is Thursday, July 16, 2026. Remember this date, it's when it all begins. What we've all been waiting for so long, what we've been talking about since the beginning of the year, maybe even earlier, is finally starting. The attack is beginning on all fronts, just as we predicted, starting with Trump's speech. This is what they call let's go, and then everything moved quickly. There was a meeting and maybe some orders, but we'll discuss that later. Behind him, there will be a lineup of security officials, the U.S. Attorney General, the head of the CIA, the director of the FBI. There will also be about 5 more people there who will be responsible for carrying out his new order, if there is one, and simply following his instructions. What is this order? What will they do? Well, if you want to know, then listen. So this could possibly be the beginning of a new era for the United States of America? On Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So, on the West Coast, that's Los Angeles, right? 9 p.m. Eastern time, that's New York. Buckle up, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. Looks like it's going to be about a cyber attack by Russia and China on our election system. Looks like today Trump will show who was pushing senile Biden for president and who succeeded. Who benefited from it, who is benefiting from it now, and what? Well, anyway, it looks like it's going to be about the voting machines that were installed in almost every state of the United States of America. All interested parties who wanted to bring down Trump came together in this unprecedented operation. China and Russia, Venezuela and Iran, the Democratic Party of the United States, and many, many Republicans from the swamp that we call the deep state, or the shadow government. All of them together, some by agreement and some simply out of hatred, did everything they could to prevent us from choosing who we want to elect. 2 events happened in just one day, and each of them alone is enough to bring down an elephant. And together, it's that very double blow that can finally put an end to the era of stolen elections in America once and for all. It's hard to believe, I understand, but at least let's take a step, a giant step, really, in that direction. Tonight, there will be such an outcry from the Democrats. You can already predict it without even hearing this speech. Yes, such an outcry from globalists all over the world and from European socialists, compared to which all the previous screams, howls, and moans were just the squeak of a newborn mouse. I think that all the mainstream shows around the world will talk about how Trump is lying. Then they'll say again that he deceived, and then add that after checking, it turned out he was also lying. So don't believe a single word they say, not a single one, except the word I. The word I, believe it. It's them. They prepared all this even before they listened to what he said, because they know. They know. What did he end up with in his hands? They were given the task to attack, which means to divert attention. God forbid people hear anything that Trump said, because if people hear it, they're finished. It's the end. Brazilian, Peruvian, whatever kind you want, huh? It's the end. Well, let's go in order. The House of Representatives has just passed the Save America Act for the 3rd time. Save America. The act to save America. But now, since the first 2 failed for a whole range of reasons in the Senate, not even reaching the Senate, now with a brilliant legislative move devised together with the recently deceased Lindsey Graham, they attached it directly to a major appropriation sent to the Senate. Why do Republicans now think there is a chance to get it through the Senate? The thing is, the revised version that is submitted as a budget amendment is now some kind of addition. It can't be stopped with a filibuster. That is, you don't need 60 votes, which the Republicans don't have in the Senate. You only need 51 because it's a budget amendment. And now I'll explain what makes one different from the other. You might say, well, there are a few Republicans who, for one reason or another, don't want honest voting in our country, and only those who supposedly are allowed to vote according to the Constitution. That's what they don't want. Well, they say all sorts of other things, yes, but that's what they're really afraid of. So how do I respond to that? The situation has changed here. For example, Susan Collins, a Republican, a member of Congress, well, a senator, right, who was just saved from defeat by Trump and the Republicans. She's running for re-election, and there's this fascist-leaning,
коммунистующий.
communist-leaning, sleazy person, a person who was very popular with the people. He spoke very eloquently. He forgot to mention that he has a fascist tattoo on his chest, that he, so to speak, likes to rape girls and other such pleasant things. He also demands everyone give everything away and share it. Not surprising, right? So he was saved. After the wild pressure from the Republicans, he was forced to withdraw his candidacy. She sighed in relief, then announced she would vote with the Republicans. That's why we got the necessary number of votes, 50 plus the vice president, making 51. Now, this bill can't be buried on procedural grounds. Why? Because it's an addition to the budget. If the legal review of the bill shows that it's about money and not about changing policy, these are two completely different types of documents, then it will be put to a vote. And today, as I already said, it requires 51 votes, and finally the Republicans have those 51 votes. And now it's also necessary for people all over the country to know why this law not only should be passed, but must be passed. It's necessary, and urgent. And this is where Trump's plan comes into play. President Trump, who, according to the Bulletin Keurig, will be backed by the CIA director, the FBI director, the director of national intelligence, and the Secretary of Homeland Security. He is preparing to step onto the national stage tonight, on Thursday evening. He just said that he has news that this country has never heard before. So you should pay attention for that reason alone. Trump really likes to exaggerate. If he's told it's from 2 to 6, he'll say 6 at the very least and so on. They tell him, "You had a lot of people at that event." He says, "I had more people at my event than anyone else in the world." But when he actually says that he has news, it means he really does have news. Friends, what happened is not just a legislative victory, it's strategic preparation for something more powerful than any law. Perhaps to declare a national security emergency. Why is it that, Trump can do something like this but can't introduce something else like a law? The thing is, he can't change the law. We have Congress and the Senate for that, right? But he does have the right to declare a state of emergency if he has grounds for it. Maybe that's why he's gathering all these guys, and that's, well, sort of, so to speak. A presidential executive order declaring a state of emergency can't be stopped by the courts, the Democrats, or, well, anyone. Here we call people who are Republicans in name only, but quietly cooperate with the Democrats in practice and form the deep state. Here we call them Rhino, Republican in name only, meaning they're Republicans only in name, right? It's possible that today is the last day when it's still possible to cheat in the elections. Starting tomorrow, a new era begins that will usher in honest elections in our country's history for the first time, probably. Before, everything was just based on trust. Everyone knew each other. Everyone would just throw the ballots in, and then they counted them. Yeah, well, how could you cheat here? And then that era ended, and the era of widespread cheating began. Starting tomorrow, it will be over. That would be absolutely wonderful, so let's start with what exactly the House of Representatives did. As I said, they passed the law for the third time, meaning it's already in its third version, right? Because this is smarter, I think, than what they did before. Honestly, all this parliamentary activity, lawmaking, procedures, and so on, it's all a confusing story for me, to be honest with you, and I really wouldn't want to take part in it. There are people who live and breathe this, right? And that's it. So, on July 14, Speaker Mike Johnson attached this Save America Act, that is, the Act to Save America, directly to a major State Department bill, which passed through the House and is now heading straight to the Senate with the same act as an integral part of the appropriations bill. Oh, I understand that what I'm saying now sounds like a full speech. Liberdam, I feel the same way, but I'll try to explain anyway. So, in order to approve this, you don't need 60 votes, as I already said, but 51, just a simple majority. This allows you to get around the Senate filibuster. I've explained that twice already. You probably don't quite understand what it means to attach something. So, imagine that you passed a bill about a bridge over the Los Angeles River. At its widest point, it reaches 1.5 meters. I didn't make a mistake or misspeak. That's what they say it is. And near my house, about a 5-minute drive away, it's about 70 centimeters. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's 80 centimeters, but no more. So they decided to name this bridge the Bridge of Three Revolutions. I hope we'll never have to do that. And they allocated to write the new name, paint the bridge, and put up a sign with flowers, $350. And now you say, yes, we forgot. We wanted not only white flowers, but also blue ones there. Let's add $20. And so you vote and pass the amendment. Well, you don't need to do it all over again, gather everyone again, make a decision again, filibuster again, the same thing all over. It's already been decided. Let's add $20 and the rules, so to speak, of the Senate and Congress allow it. That's what it says there. Here, if something needs to be corrected, yes, but $20. And what if I want 120? There's nothing written about that. What if I want 120 billion? That's not mentioned anywhere. And so Congress and the Senate play these kinds of games. Let's add to the $350 for repainting the bridge a complete re-equipment of the entire Army and Navy costing $2 trillion. Again, they don't need 60 people. 51 is enough for them because this is just an amendment. We're not proposing anything new. It's just an amendment. And so to these $350, they attach 2, 3, 4, 5 trillion. Well, you got the idea, right? That's about what Congress just did now. Well, not as blatantly, right? They reworked the Save America Act, this one, right? Into financial incentives for states that do what is required by this act. But financial. Like, nobody is forcing anyone, we just give incentives or don't give incentives, give money or don't give money. And in this way, it has now become not a political measure, but a budget bill. Well, unless, of course, they are stopped by what's called the parliamentarian, that's the final authority in our Senate, in deciding whether this is political or budgetary. There are numerous reports that President Trump is planning to announce some sensational revelations about election fraud in our country, especially regarding the 2020 election. He still hasn't acknowledged those elections, so what? Can they do anything about it? He says, I just don't recognize them, period. And in classic Trump fashion, he promises that the scale of what will be discussed tonight will be colossal. Again, Trump, of course, loves words like the biggest. This will be like a bombshell the world has never seen before, and so on. It doesn't matter. According to reports from Reuters and The Hill, and so to speak, numerous White House sources confirm this, Trump will appear on Tell Tribune in the evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Time and present not explicitly declassified intelligence. That is something we haven't heard or seen yet. Evidence that foreign states, well, we know there are only about 4 or 5 such states that could have, right? Let's list them again, okay? That's Russia, China, Venezuela, North Korea, and Iran. Furthermore, all the evidence suggests that the discussion will be about, or at least there are such rumors, right? About China and Russia. Either the elections will focus on China or on Russia, we don't know. Or maybe they'll combine Russia with Iran or something like that. Because Trump has already started putting pressure on Putin and said that things will get better from here. Better from our point of view, but from Putin's point of view, worse. So, for example, as was leaked to us, there were vulnerabilities in the voting system in the state of Michigan. That is, something became known there, which they uncovered and can now talk about. I should emphasize that this is just a report about what Trump will be talking about, because Trump himself confirmed that the topic will be election security. And this will destroy the narrative that our elections are flawless, fair, and free. But Trump hasn't given any specific details yet, so many people are now connecting what just happened in the House and what is now before the Senate. This is the attachment of the Save America Act to the National Security Bill, and they claim that Trump will push it through. That is, as they say, he will see it through to the end. Well, in Russian, dozmet means to push it through. What does dozmet mean? So the country won't see this as separate events after Trump's speech. They will understand, they will see the origin of what was happening here, that foreign states, together with one of our parties, or rather the leadership of one of our parties, the Democratic one, yes, tried to betray our country. They tried to do the worst thing that can happen in America, which is proud of its Republican-Democratic system. That is, to make it so that our votes don't count, to deceive. So, now the people will see the passage of this law through the House, its move to the Senate, and Trump's speech on Thursday as a single event. Listen, here it goes. And now look at what Trump is saying. How dare anyone in the Senate not approve it, because here is all the evidence. Not approve it. For those who forgot, the conversation is about the fact that non-U.S. citizens do not have the right to vote. And secondly, that you have to present identification to prove that you are who you say you are. And thirdly, in general, I hope there is also a ban on voting by mail-in ballots, a ban on using these electronic devices, and so on. That is, I hope there are many things there that will change our elections and allow us on the same evening to count everything from start to finish and not be afraid that there will be fraud or mistakes. Trump, at the very least, will provide intelligence data with the support of the CIA, the National Intelligence Apparatus, and the FBI to the entire nation, which fully justifies attaching the Save America Act to the National Security Bill. That is, the timing of preparing the bill in the House of Representatives was done specifically, well, the moment of its release, yes, specifically for Trump's appearance before Trump's worldwide audience with the statement he is going to make. After what he says, it will be very difficult for Democratic senators to claim that the reforms outlined in the Save America Act are unnecessary. That is the whole point of his speech. They will be seen either as fools or as scoundrels who don't care about us and only think about their own pockets, about their comfortable positions. And their comfortable positions aren't for us, not to provide the services we pay them for, but to serve completely different people, definitely not us. That was the whole point of this move, to prepare the legal groundwork, then bring it all to the public, and then point fingers at everyone who resists and speaks out. Here he is, the one who's doing this, the one who's speaking out. Well, he's not your friend. It's no coincidence that Trump, according to reports, will be standing with the full support of the national security apparatus live during prime time, because the message here isn't political, it's legal. When all these guys are standing next to the president presenting declassified intelligence about a foreign attack on American election infrastructure, this isn't a press conference. It's a formal evidentiary basis for declaring a state of emergency. Will he keep it in place until the elections in November, or will he lift it right before the elections? That's why more and more experts are saying that we're witnessing the formation of a formal evidentiary basis for declaring a national security emergency by Donald Trump himself. I'm not sure he'll declare it, but we'll see. So actually, it's enough even without a declaration if there's an agreement in place. If there's no evidence declaring it doesn't matter, what kind of emergency or national security is that? But if there is evidence that's sufficient without a declaration, and that's why this is more important than any law or any court decision. A state of emergency in the interests of national security is practically invulnerable both to the courts and to Congress. The courts can't overturn such a declaration any more than they could stop Trump from starting a war, with Iran, for example, right? There are certain things in our lives that are handled by the president and only the president. An ordinary executive order can be challenged in court, but a national security emergency declaration is a completely different legal instrument. Overturning it by Congress is almost impossible. Filibuster does not apply to it. The parliamentarian can't rule it out of order. It disrupts order. What do you have to do with it? Flirt. Is this lady with us, right? Keep in mind that Trump used exactly this mechanism back in 2019 to build the border wall. He started building it when Congress refused to fund it, and it worked. If Trump's speech tonight meets expectations, and reports suggest that he won't just give a speech, but will pull the trigger on the most powerful mechanism for protecting election integrity in the history of American law. Although, to be honest, this is just speculation for now. We're just trying to connect the dots, right? But if he still doesn't go as far as formally declaring a state of emergency, then most likely tomorrow evening he will give Save America the momentum needed to get through the Senate with a simple majority and overcome any objections that the parliamentarian might raise. I suspect that this is exactly what they've been preparing with Grom. Senate of the Senate, Grom. As far as I understand the legal opinion, the parliamentarian's opinion is not mandatory to follow. Otherwise, we would need a Republican senator, Irina, to overcome her objections if she tries to block the inclusion of the SAVE Act in the final bill and the appropriation. This is how tonight brings it all together. After all, the Democrats argue their position as follows. Election fraud is just a conspiracy theory. It never happened. It's a solution in search of a problem. We've moved on. We're dealing with other things now. That's it for everyone. Reno is just a Republican in name only. We've already talked about this with you. The one who betrayed us on this issue used the same soft excuse as political cover. But if today's speech lives up to expectations, if Trump presents secret intelligence about interference in American elections, then the Save America Act will no longer be needed only by Republicans. It becomes an obvious and urgent national security response to a documented attack on American democracy for any senator. The remaining obstacle is what's called reconciliation. I'm adding yes. When it comes to election integrity, they're not just voting against voter ID anymore. They're voting against a documented recommendation from the CIA, FBI, and the President of the United States on the eve of the midterm elections. I said this yesterday. If 80% of the country already supports measures to ensure election integrity, after the speech it could become 90%. And these 90 or thereabouts. And at least half of them will demand that their senators and other members of Congress immediately stop playing their partisan games. The House has already done its job. The reconciliation mechanism is in place. The declassified evidence is reportedly in their hands. On Thursday evening, the President of the United States steps up to the podium with the full support of the national security apparatus. The fight for free and fair elections is not over. As for President Trump, this fight is only just beginning. That's what we heard from Trump. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are just a few hours left to wait. If you want to receive such messages and watch the videos that my team is preparing for you, then not only subscribe, but also hit the bell. By the way, I've been told several times, like, you ask us to hit the bell, but what for? Isn't it enough that I subscribed? Let me try to explain. When you are a subscriber and you hit the bell, YouTube understands that you want to know right away as soon as this channel uploads a new video, whatever new thing they post. And as soon as a new video comes out, YouTube immediately sends you a notification on your phone. Let's say yes as soon as the video appears, but you might ask, does it really matter? Will I watch this video in the first hour or the 21st hour after it's released? Yes, that's not exactly how it works. Here's the thing. The first hour is like an exam for the video when the video has just been released. The algorithm still doesn't know if it's good for the audience or not, if it's interesting to a lot of people or if it's not interesting. That's why it shows the video to a small group of people and carefully watches how they react. It checks several things, like whether they click on the video. There's a little rectangle, something written, something drawn. People read it, look at it, and whether they click on it or not. How long do they watch the video? Do they stop after a second, after 10 seconds, or do they watch for 30 minutes or 10 minutes? I don't know, maybe this video will be about 15 minutes, maybe 20. Something like that. How long do they watch? Do they leave likes? Do they write comments? Do they share these videos with someone? By the way, sharing is also very important. Yes, people who have the bell turned on get notifications right away and theoretically should be the first to watch. It creates an initial surge, a lot of clicks, a lot of views at the very beginning, and for the algorithm, that's a signal. Yeah, the video just came out, and people are already actively watching, finishing it, sharing it, leaving comments, and leaving likes. And then it starts showing the video to a wider audience, otherwise it doesn't. Then it goes like a staircase, step by step. First to those who click the bell, they're the first ones. Then to the rest of the channel's subscribers, both in their feed and in the subscription section. And if they watch it well, the algorithm goes beyond the channel, which is very welcome, and starts showing the video to other people. So to those who aren't subscribed to the channel but have watched something similar before, now that's what it is. Recommendations on the main page and in the recommended videos column, the one on the right. Yes, that is, the bell itself doesn't directly boost the video, it works in a chain. The bell gives a quick notification, a strong start. In the first hour, the algorithm sees good numbers and starts showing the video to more and more people, including complete strangers who are interested in this topic. The more strangers watch, the more new viewers there are, the more subscribers, and accordingly, the more people turn on notifications later on. A simple comparison. The bell is like the first spark. It gathers the first viewers instantly. And a quick and active start ignites a fire, which the algorithm then fans and carries further to subscribers, to new people with similar interests. So once again, gentlemen, subscribe and... So to give us a good start, please hit the bell, because maybe then it will remember you well and show you everything right away and show it to you first. That's all for now. See you soon.